The Second Epistle to Timothy, the Introduction. The Apostle Paul, as stated in the salutation. The references of a personal nature also confirm this, especially when compared to other Pauline epistles. We are first introduced to Timothy in Acts 16, verses 1 through 3, where we learn that his mother was Jewish and his father Greek. From this epistle we also learn that his mother and grandmother had been believers in Christ, who raised Timothy in the Scriptures. Well spoken of by the brethren at Lystra and Iconium, Paul desired that Timothy travel with him and therefore had him circumcised to accommodate Jews they would seek to evangelize. This began a long relationship of service together in the work of the Lord, in which Timothy served Paul as a son would his father. Such service included not only traveling with Paul, but remaining with new congregations when Paul had to leave suddenly, going back to encourage such congregations, and serving as Paul's personal emissary. He had the honor of joining Paul in the salutation of several epistles written by Paul, and from such epistles we learn that Timothy had been with Paul during his imprisonment at Rome. Such faithful service also resulted in his being left in Ephesus as Paul's personal representative. He may have still been in the area when this letter was penned. The general consensus is that following his first imprisonment in Rome, Paul was released and allowed to travel for several years before being arrested again. It was during this second imprisonment that Paul wrote this epistle from Rome. Every indication is that he did not expect to be released, and shortly after this letter was put to death by Nero. Since Nero was killed in 68 AD, Paul would have died a short time earlier. This letter can therefore be dated around 66 to 67 AD. This epistle contains Paul's stirring words of encouragement and instructions to Timothy, his beloved son. Longing to see him, Paul writes this letter to have Timothy come quickly to Rome, and to bring along Mark, a cloak that was left at Troas, and some books and parchments. He uses the occasion, however, to write concerning those things that are most heavy on his heart, related to Timothy's work. With all the exhortations and instructions related to his work as a minister of the gospel of Christ, an appropriate theme for this epistle might therefore be, "Fulfill your ministry." This concludes the introduction to the second epistle to Timothy.